This podcast contains adult language, descriptions of violence, sexual references, and other possibly offensive themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to this episode of Back to the Story, where friends come together to play Dungeons and Dragons. I'll be your DM, Klouse. Let's get started.
How do three paladins of separate gods?
But if you ask me what my calling would be, I'd say that of a defender of my friends. I would give my life to see them through.
I could have, but I didn't. And every day has been beautiful since.
I think I'm surrounded by good things.
A cleric on a hunt for redemption.
I need it for my friends, family, these people that I love, who have always been the answers to my prayers.
Whatever the hell you are.
I don't know if deserving has anything to do with anything.
A storyteller.
And if you ever need me ever again, let me know.
And one I haven't figured out yet.
I think that would take me a while to find someone more knowledgeable than me.
All come together. And there's not a bit of fate in that?
I think you mispronounced friends.
Well, I will drink to that.
When you see God's rest surrounded by armies, then know that his desolation has come near. Take these wings to Nymunet. Carry them home. Looks like everyone's here, I think. I see Roger, I see Michael, I think. I see the other you people.
Or we can tell who's Klause's favorites.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can see you guys visually. Is what I was thinking. Well, I guess if everyone's here, we can go ahead and get started, if you guys want. Previously, settling in. After arriving in Nymunet, the Bronze Scales began settling into the ancient city. Ellory explored the Odysseus temple, meeting a voyager and arranging for training. Vesper and Ball returned to the High Fane at Redemption Zenith, managing to see a Vindicator upon a griffin briefly before they rode off. Meli met with Mavis Cassidy, who was preparing and planning to delve below Nymunet, guided by a vision from the dragon god, Akashan. Kalvyn spent the week recovering from death, moving into the Rotunda of Luminance afterwards and starting to learn of the orders in Valisol. We then saw the rest of the Scales beginning their journey of research, training, and quest within the holy city of Nymunet. We come back to the story here, with the several bustling cities joined as one upon the Ascendant Plateau, which rises towards the heavens as each of the Scales begin their own individual journeys, and together in the holy city. I think we're going to go ahead and start. There's a couple that are chronologically important as we do this downtime series. We'll start with Ezekiel. Ezekiel, you're in the old growth on the outskirts of Nymunet when you see a bird, a swallow, land on a tree branch, then onto the snow in front of you before you see the familiar face of Dane appear. Hello, Ezekiel?
Dane, it's good to see you. Everything all right?
Yes and no. And he kind of gestures for you to walk with them. We've found out some things. I spoke with the Green Knights and got a report from them. The city's set a curfew. None out after night, especially in the Grey Tract, like anyone needed to be told that. There's been 15 dead total. Of these, their reports indicate most were separated, with a mix of bestial scratch and bite marks, and some weapon marks, piercing. We're unsure exactly of the weapon. With the curfew implemented, the Grey Tract has been banned. The Reaping Festival is still on in 2 days, but otherwise the normal traditions are banned. The Green Knights sent in a few scouts who knew not to engage, and just to find out information. They haven't come back. It was sent a few days ago. I've been sending word out through the creatures of the forest and found them. I went there myself to discover what happened, and I found the Green Knight scouts, both dead, and curiously enough, both separated. One of the scouts had their weapon drawn, and had bite marks and weapon marks. The other one had not drawn their weapon. They had a single large wound with a piercing weapon of some sort. What's curious is the knights knew not to separate, and yet they were found apart. Maybe about 100 meters apart, but apart all the same, and the one scout never even drew their weapon. Some blood was found on the second scout who fought back, and it was brought back to Briarbridge, and consulted with the clerics there that this blood was indeed fiendish. The knights have begun planning to bait the creature, whatever it may be, and to take it out. Their idea is to banish it, though they're still working out on who might be able to do so. There's not a cleric in Briarbridge capable, but there might be some here. That's currently where it stands in the Grey Track.
Thank you for bringing me that, Dane. I can help you try and find a cleric. I'm sure Vesper knows somebody. She can't herself. This makes me nervous, Dane. It hasn't been my home for a long time, but it was.
It's close to the city, though the closest body found was about an hour and a half, 2 hours from the city, walking. But the murders were trending towards the city, but that's as close as they got. The curfew seems to be effective, at least in the last couple of days.
I don't know. I may want to go check it out, just in case, at least until after the festival. Besides, I promised my mother I'd go.
I know the Green Knights, who you have history with, are preparing a team for this baiting operation. They may could use some help, if they'll accept it.
I suppose we shall see.
Suppose.
Let me go update my friends and figure out what I'm going to do. If you need to wander around looking for a cleric elsewhere, someone in the grove may be able to point you in the right direction.
I'll ask around. And with that, Dane and you part as you go to find your friends. And I did check, kind of out of narrative, there is, I think, 2 people in the scales that can do it. One, curiously enough, it's on the paladin spell list, if you have a 4th level spell slot. But otherwise, Ezekiel, you meet up with all the friends. You'll meet in a tavern or somewhere that you're staying at, where you're able to update them.
So that's the situation. Fiends and banishment. Do any of you have a spell that can banish things?
I can banish things, kind of, I think. I haven't used it yet, but I know a spell that does it.
Well, isn't that just convenient? If y'all wouldn't mind, perhaps we could go lend our assistance. I think I could convince one of the keepers in the grove to let us walk through a tree again. We'd get there fast. The way back would be a hike, but we missed it the first time around.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I think if we need to go, we should go.
Sounds like an adventure. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Kalvyn, would you be up for it yet? I don't want to rush you back into battle before you're ready.
If this is as early as we're setting, Kalvyn probably would not be with the group.
Okay.
Well, in that case, Ball's like, we should check with Kalvyn. But I am also worried that maybe we need to be around here for if these omens are true. This is where it would happen.
Theoretically, Willow could get y'all back from the grove again. I could. That's only a few days from there. You'd only be gone for a few. But if you don't all have to come, Meli, obviously, is the key here. But if some of you would like to stay and be able to warn us, then you're more than welcome.
I'll go with you, definitely. At the very least, I can, we're going to need some materials first, but I do have a spell that will let me bind the demon into a circle.
Could be helpful.
And I can make holy water, but I think you can as well.
I can, yeah. Well, why don't I find out which of the keepers can get us to Briarbridge? Maybe we can leave tomorrow. One of y'all want to go find Kalvyn and check?
Yeah, I'll head back to the temples anyways. See if maybe I can just get holy water for free or for a cheaper price.
I need an item that's distasteful to the target, though, as well.
Well, we're in a holy city and it's a fiend. I'd imagine any holy symbol would probably do the trick.
Cool.
Okay. So you guys gather that getting holy water is easy enough. Finding a way back, you can do that. A friend of Willow is able to do it. Not Titus, but another one you haven't met before. Half-elf gentleman is able to do it with wild long hair and a big bushy dark beard. He looks like he's maybe 20-something. He looks very young, but it's hard to tell with elven descent. They're able to take you that day or the day after. You gather your holy water and a holy symbol, or Meli can borrow one off of one of the scales that are going. And you can get word to Kalvyn and let him know, and then Kalvyn, you can decide as you're in the order, Luminous learning and training.
I don't like to be put on the spot. I don't know where he would stand in this situation. Depending on how desperate the plea was, then maybe, but as things are, he probably would respond. Or at least send back like he's unable to.
Okay.
But he would not, he wouldn't deliver that message personally.
Okay. So another enlightened of Valisol comes out and kind of delivers that message on behalf of Kalvyn. Kind of that if you really, really need me, but otherwise I have work to do here. Eventually, those who are willing and want to embark on this gather up once more with the half-elven who familiarly enough steps you through the trees and brings you into the grove once more. With the stone circles rising up out of the ground and the various plant growth and these walking trees guarding this area.
Are they going to get us to Briarbridge itself? Just to the grove?
No, but you're able to move there.
Okay.
Fairly quickly after that. But they can get you directly to the grove that day. You make your way, and that's actually, if you're going to Briarbridge, you can, but it's also, you could go to the Saffron Garden, which is where the knights would be, who are planning on this.
Great, we can go there.
Or you can meet them somewhere else.
Nope, that's probably for the best. Let's just rip this Band-Aid.
Okay. So you guys travel there into the grove, making your way towards the Saffron Garden. Ezekiel, you still remember the way. As you're heading to it, you move back into the Witherwood Forest of this ever-autumn yellow and orange and red trees. You can see there's a horse and wagon trail that winds its way through the trees towards the Saffron Garden, where you begin to see this grove of saffron trees, as they're called. You see these deep redwood stretching trees that grow maybe about 20 feet high with boughs that stretch nearly as wide as they are tall. You can see on the ends of them many yellow flowers with red stamens growing out of their center. You see numerous, as you move in towards the center, training circles of roots grown into woven 2-foot-high fences in circles where you see Green Knights training. You can see the first structure you see is the horse stables, the barn, where they have a few steeds. Of some old stone wall structure supplemented by wood to create the barn itself. And then you move through the trees to see the Whitestone Rook itself, a small ancient castle of Whitestone, maybe 4 stories high. It's tall and fairly narrow, with this old white stone overgrown with ivy. You can see above the front door these banners of green. This serves as the Green Knights' headquarters. You see the banner itself green as a sword wrapped in vines in yellow. As you come there, you're met with a Green Knight, and eventually, recognizing who you are, they go inside the castle into the White Rook and bring out, and a few people come out. Ezekiel, you recognize some of them. You recognize Knight Errant Maggie West. You recognize Knight Errant Wayne O'Rock, who you also trained with, in addition to Maggie. You see Knight Champion Gerard Barrow of the Saffron Blade. He is the second oldest of the White Rook. He's probably in line to becoming the Knight Master. And he holds the Saffron Blade, which is this enchanted katana-esque curving blade. And then the Knight Master himself, Osmond Dyreth of White Rook, approaches, who is an older man in his probably mid-60s approach, and I gather before you, recognizing you, Ezekiel. You see some of the knights have kind of stopped training at this point and kind of are watching the interaction. First, the bigger group with a half-giant, and then noticing Ezekiel yourself. The Knight Champion is the first to step up. He's the one that served a large role in training. He sort of maybe didn't directly train you, but he served over those directly training some of the recruits. Ezekiel.
Yeah, hi. I'm sure Maggie reported that I had passed through town not too long ago, and I had heard about the troubles, so I sent a friend to keep an eye. Something took me away from this place quicker than I wanted to, and I didn't get a chance to come by then, but I heard you needed someone who could banish a fiend, and I happen to know a gal.
She did report this, Ezekiel. I'm sad that you left. So much potential wasted. But here you might be able to redeem yourself.
No redemption necessary, sir. And potential not wasted, but just moved in a different direction. Now, I am happy to help, because I do love this land. But I'm not here for your approval. I'm here to do what's right.
You kind of see grinded teeth stop and sort of almost acknowledge that there's not going to be progress in that department. So be it. And he gestures towards the rook, and you're brought inside into a room where there is a table laid out, a map is placed of the forest, the Great Tract, and they begin to explain their plan. They will try to bait the fiend with a mixture of blood, honey, milk, saffron flowers, and set up for an ambush, at which point they will try to kill the thing. Though not being sure what it is, they wanted a backup plan in case they couldn't. That backup plan being banishment as sort of a, if they're out of their league, a way to retreat and get out of the situation. They've set up a place in the Great Tract where they're going to be able to hide at least somewhat, where the bait might work and the ambush might be successful. One of them, Knight Errant Wayne O'Rock, also mentions that they were trying to find and hire an Unhallowed, but have been unsuccessful in finding someone yet. But they've been reaching out to that organization. But with that plan in place, they go over it with you and then begin to move y'all to the forest, waiting for nightfall. And on that night, as they pour out the honey in a circle, and they pour the blood into a single spot upon a planted saffron pile of flowers, and then they pour the milk in crosses, linking the outer circle of honey and the blood flowers in the middle. They set this up and then move out to the side. Knight Master Osmond, the oldest of White Rook, doesn't come, but Knight Champion Gerard does, as well as O'Rock and Maggie West. And then two other knights who supplement y'all's larger group, with the plan to, as soon as it approaches, to strike at it and begin to try to banish it when it does appear.
And how close are we to the circle? Like in hiding?
It's kind of up to y'all, within 30 feet or so.
Would there be a place within 10 feet to hide?
Yeah, you could. It'd be more in the open. You'd be more in danger if it did come, but you could certainly try.
I'm going to try that.
Okay.
When she goes to do so, can I cast invisibility on her?
Yeah. Yeah, sure thing.
And I would like to prep a protection from evil and good on Meli. It lasts up to 10 minutes.
Okay. So we're going to do a skill challenge for this, as opposed to a standard combat, and see how that works. If it doesn't, we'll kind of devolve into combat. Well past midnight, maybe 1 going on 2 a.m., as you're waiting under the darkened sky. There's a moon above, but it's obscured by cloud cover. You finally hear movement. Steps. And as you look in that direction from behind trees and through the leaves of bushes, you see a man stepping forward. You see he has armor that has branded runes and glyphs into it. You see he's using a spear as a walking stick. He has this faded and tattered cape of yellow upon his back. And as he walks towards the circle, you see on his back there's a large red rune that's printed on the back of his cape. You see there's a hood that kind of covers part of his face. You do see his face as he's holding a torch in the other hand. A humanoid, older man, maybe early 40s, with an unshaven face, and you can see dark hair beneath the hood, who kind of looks down upon the honey and the milk and the flowers. He breathes out and kneels down, slams the torch into the ground to hold it up, and dips those fingers into the blood and honey mix, sniffing, and then licks it just a bit before he stands back up.
You can come out now.
Yeah, I'll step out.
You see the man looks towards you. Not a bad try. These things are smarter than this, though. I've been hunting this one for a few days. He takes a step forward and raises a hand to shake yours, moving the spear to his other hand.
I'm gonna use Divine Sense.
Fiend. Screams fiend. Unhallowed. Aldrich Wrath. At your service.
A pleasure to meet you. And I'm gonna hold out my hand and cast Tidal Wave.
Okay. And so we're going to start the skill challenge at this point. You have to get 6 successes before you get 3 failures.
Okay.
To determine how this works. So with Tidal Wave, I'll say make a spell attack roll, basically, to see how well this works.
I just click that. I will use this button. That'll work. 12.
So the tidal wave screams towards him, and as it does, he sees the water being pulled from your hand, from the dew and the mist around on these leaves, and he sees it and he shifts through, throwing his shoulder to the side and kind of breaking through the tidal wave. It does wash him down and knock him down against the tree, but he quickly rolls and gets back up on his feet. At this point, you see him move into a fighting stance, low with the spear, and then he stands up straight before his elbow bends back, and then his other, and then his wrist, and then his shoulders, and his knees all bend backwards as he turns around and the hood comes down. And you see a snarling, bestial wolf hyena face on the back of his as you see this demonic with red burning eyes flipping its body backwards in order to take you on.
Can I cast Magic Circle?
Yeah, make a similar spell attack.
I don't know what dice I want to use. Okay, good. That is a 19.
Okay. So as you do that, runes of silver light appear all around him, and one is close enough to him that it almost shoves, as if a invisible wall of force hits into his shoulder, shoving him within the circle. The Green Knights all begin to charge in, drawing their blades and striking at it. Meli, anybody else? What do you guys do?
I'll cast Banishment.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay. Give me a spell attack modifier.
Can I use Portent?
Yeah.
She rolls an 18 plus whatever she adds.
Good question. +5.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. In that case, this skill challenge isn't working as I thought it was going to work, so I'm going to do it a little different. So this time I'll actually make a roll. I'll say it's versus yours. So Meli, you push forth this spell you've never cast before, enhanced by the blood around you, and the milk and the honey and these runes that are igniting around from Vesper's magic. And everything seems to go dark as you're focusing just on him. And you see only him and yourself in a field of darkness, void, nothing else. You see him turn towards you, this piece of as he begins to rush towards you, and then you see him almost being pushed like wind blowing against him, and he kind of pushes one hand up, trying to force his way against your will. You see his arm snap back, fading. As he takes another step, you can see this snarling figure dripping, saliva foaming, but it's red as if it's blood. Make a wisdom save for me.
12.
Okay. You find yourself being frightened and horribly afraid of this creature. You see it smiles as everything goes dark, and then your vision.
Just to interrupt, because she is protected from evil, she is immune to frightened by fiends.
Okay, thank you. So, Meli, as you see this snarling beast, you take a step back before the determination hits you. You feel a gust of gentle wind at your back, with Ezekiel's presence and the divine, natural spirit of Asinkma, and you take that step forward, and the fiend is almost in shock that you would dare to do so, and at that moment, it disappears. The blackness that you see dissipates as you see the Grandmaster with his saffron blade slamming into the bark of a tree where the fiend once was, where there's nothing. Meli, you still feel linked to this creature, and you know that to finalize
this spell, you cannot lose concentration for 1 minute. And it is 60 seconds of intensity as you focus on this creature as it batters against the arcane lattice of a spiritual door, trying to break through. Eventually the minute passes. Before it fades, you feel the tension release as it's unable to force through. The knights all turn around, a few of them clawed up in this first couple seconds of conflict, soaking wet from the mud from the tidal wave, looking around, still prepared, holding the blade, just in case.
I'm gonna run up to Meli and give her like a big bear hug and like spin her around in a circle, like whooping and hollering, and then kind of realize that she probably hates that and set her down.
Meli will just be like frozen and awkward the whole time until she gets put down, and then she'll sort of be like, okay.
Sorry, that was just great. Wow.
Thanks. I'm really glad that worked because I've never done that before.
That was badass, Meli.
Thanks.
And as you look around and the knights begin to relax some, you do notice one thing was left behind, and that is that yellow cape with the red rune on its back. You see, it is a fiendish rune, a symbol. The knights kind of gingerly poke it with the blade before taking a torch and tossing it on it. It's a little wet, so it takes time, but eventually they set it ablaze and burn it away. Those of you, besides Ezekiel, and Ezekiel may be able to infer this, but those of you who helped Kalvyn with Noxtra recognize this is not just a fiendish letter, but a fiendish symbol, similar to a name. You just see it being burnt away before fading.
Is it the same name? Sorry.
No, it's not the same name, but you recognize that's what it is. It's not a letter, it's a symbol for a name. What were you saying, Ezekiel?
I was just going to go up to the Knight Commander and, well, I know we didn't quite defeat it, but hopefully that will take care of your problem. It's usually not terribly easy to get back.
I hope so. We're going to continue to reach out to the Interlude and see if there's more information. Don't want it coming back.
Of course. Well, I'm glad I could be of assistance in this matter. I hope, in time, you will be able to rely on both me and the people in my grove. Because our missions are aligned, even if our methods are not.
He nods and lowers his head a bit before meeting your gaze and pulling out his hand to shake yours. He's tall. He's not nearly as tall as you, though. He's maybe 6'2". So you do tower over him by a hand's worth. But he shakes your hand, and as you're beginning to part, he tells you, Visit, and we will see where your grandmother's buried and speak of her.
I'd like that. Well, I better go see my mother.
He cracks a smile from the side of his mouth, and before y'all part, good luck. And,
you too.
And as you guys part, you kind of break away from that scene as Ezekiel, you begin to go see your mother. The others, you kind of go back to where you want them to, either back to Nymunet or wherever it is you intend to go. As we shift over to Kalvyn, who's been in the Temple of Valisol and the Rotunda of Luminance, the orders of these knights of Valisol, who's begun to train. And Kalvyn, which order did you decide on?
After reading all my notes and clarifying a few things, I am staying with the Order of Sacrifice.
Okay. So a couple of weeks go by of training and educating about who Valisol is and each of the orders and what they stand for and what they do. As you learn about the Order of Sacrifice. The Solar of this order is Solar Thanos, who sacrificed himself to protect Valisol against the betrayers. The engraving in the chamber for that Order of Sacrifice is of Thanos using the sun shield to protect the Luminance, the knights behind him. The altar in the center of the room is a circular stone of the sun, and in the center of it is carved the symbol of the Order of Sacrifice, the Sun Heart. You see those of this order wear a sash around their belt of this particular order with the sun heart symbol, this mix between a sun and a beating heart. You learn of Thanos and what's left of him, his heart itself, being used to power the forge at the top of the beacon here, and that anything crafted by its heat is blessed by Thanos and by Valisol. The Nymunet sovereign in charge of this order is Rabban Daw. He's a human, older, wild, bushy beard, bronzed armor of the sun heart. From the distant east, he speaks with a air of nobility, though he tries to be humble. Your training begins first with education and then with weapons, as you prove yourself, sparring with other knights, other Nymunet spears, when the bells ring of Nymunet. Bells of warning, something coming. And your Nymunet ordiner comes in and gathers a few of the spears and Nymunet errant to lead towards this. They rush you because they all know the Valkyrs and wolves of Wolfrath, though they promised to let the Nymunets get some training in against the continuous onslaught and wildness of the savage lands beyond Nymunet itself, beyond the walls. They do not wait. They do not follow orders or law as the Nymunets do. And within a moment, you hear, and from the sunlight streaming down, you see horses, one after another, that skid to a stop, tall and muscular, of golden hides with darkened heads and hooves, ears longer, unusually longer than others, as they all begin to mount their horses and they look at you. Kalvyn, your steed.
Kalvyn will look for a open saddle.
Right,
Call it. You hear some of the other Nymunets. Call it to you, Kalvyn. And they're gesturing towards the sun.
Okay. Has this been something we've gone through, or is this the first time I'm
You've seen people call other steeds to them before. This is the first time you would be trying to do it yourself.
Okay, so this is something. Okay, he's a little
you're
familiar.
aware it's possible. Yeah, you just haven't done it. You've been able to do it yourself.
Okay, stumbling a little bit, he will kind of look towards the sun as they were gesturing, and he'll grab his holy symbol and I guess kind of pray. Try to, but mostly just like under his breath.
Come on, horsey.
And as you do that, eyes closed, you feel a hand on your shoulder. The Nymunet ordiner, Matteo, puts his hand on your shoulder, and you hear him whisper blessings of Abaddon on you. And when you open your eyes, you see your own horse streaming down, of a similar breed. And you've heard of these horses of Abaddon, originally from the east, created by Valisol himself as a gift to his children, to his followers. These steeds with wide hooves, able to easily run across gravel and sand, strong and muscular, but tall and lithe. And they can be black or tan or gold, but they all have darkened necks and faces and hooves from the knees down, with long manes of dark black hair. What does yours look like? As you can hear its steps as it descends down from the sunlight.
This horse had no radical changes from everything else, except the pattern itself is a little probably unique, very much more like a leopard skin kind of panthery, probably mixtures of the colors that everybody else have, but they're kind of spotchy and almost too patterny to be like moo cow-y, but like I said, more like kind of like leopardy.
Okay, so almost a leopardy paint version that descends down. And as you get upon it, they begin trotting off towards towards the side of the city where the bells are ringing upon your steeds. And they begin asking you what you call it.
He is Myundis.
Myundis. And so Kalvyn gains his horse, Myundis. You go there and there's a beast attacking the walls. With the Nymunets, you rush upon the steeds and begin attacking this creature, scaled like a snake almost, though with
multiple legs. As you begin to weaken it and push it back, it begins to retreat before you see the dire wolves of Wolfrath beginning to rush in after and begin to chase the creature away before it retreats. But other than your horse and your learning and your training, learning the vows of the order, what each one stands for, Kalvyn, what else did you want? I know you had a scene in mind that was chronologically important.
After a while of probably a few weeks of being separated, probably not with zero contact except maybe a couple of messages with other scales, with whatever, people in between sending the messages, Kalvyn would try to find Amsen. He probably would try to do it in a way, if there's at all possible, to get to him, maybe reach out to him without anybody else being involved, kind of privately.
Yeah, you'd be able to do so and bring Amsen aside, either meeting him, your choice, at a tavern or by the table itself. Or Amsen, you get word from one of the Enlightened, a simple letter from Kalvyn asking you to meet him.
Okay. If Kalvyn doesn't specify a place to meet up, then I'll go to the Temple of Valisol to see him.
Okay.
Hey, that's fine. That works.
So you guys meet at the temple, Kalvyn and Amsen, as you kind of find time and space.
Hey, Amsen, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you again, Kalvyn. Haven't seen you for a little while. How's everything going here at the temple?
Things are going pretty good. Learning a lot. I got a new friend, and then some acquaintances. It's really nice.
That's good.
Finding the camaraderie.
Yeah, I'm glad you're having a really good time here, Kalvyn. You wanted to see me for something?
Yeah, not really sure how to bring this up. Surely, I don't know if you guys have really met up, and I know I missed out on the helping out Ezekiel with some stuff, but kind of been struggling with some internal demons of my own, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm just paying attention to what you're saying is all.
I don't know. I'm feeling terribly guilty about what happened with those bugbears, and I feel like I'm not useful to you guys.
Amsen will kind of just shallowly nod, but then shake his head and say, No, Kalvyn. I don't want to say you're wrong, even though you are, but let me put it this way. We need you, Kalvyn, in possibly ways that you don't quite understand. You really are a piece of inspiration for all of us. You are strong, you are brave, you are fearless, and you protect us with everything that you have. Every single resource that you have at your disposal, you use to help us. And we appreciate every single bit that you do, whether that's, taking hits for us, or making us laugh, or just being there. Even if you're not doing anything, it's just nice to have you around. So if you think... I appreciate
that, but I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, it's just, I feel like I wasn't enough, Like, y'all, we were going in there to save Meli, and y'all ended up dragging me out, bringing me to Nymunet, which cut things kind of short, I guess.
Yeah, I understand. It was hard, but I think in a way, you do not have to do everything. You, in a lot of ways, the reason why any of us are enough for anything is because we have each other. We have each other to lean on, we have each other to, cast spells and use words of encouragement and use our weapons and our wits and whatever we have at our disposal to help out each other. And I feel like, at least me personally, I don't feel like what happened at the Bugbear encampment was your fault at all. You did what you wanted and what you were supposed to do in that you fought a lot of bugbears on our behalf, and you got Meli out of there because you were there in the middle of all of it. You gave Ellory a chance to cast a spell to get her and Meli out of there. And we couldn't have done it if you and Ball were not there. I feel bad for not... I don't know. I feel like there's something more that we could have done in order to get you out of there too. At least before you fell.
But y'all did so much, for me. That seems almost silly. You dragged me to Nymunet, and you brought me to the temple where they gave me another chance. I can't ask for you guys to have done more. I just hope that, I don't know, I was worried that I wasn't holding my end of the bargain.
Well, I can tell you this. I can speak on behalf of everybody else. None of us feel that way. You gave everything you had to get Meli out of that. And we don't expect anything more from you. We barely... Let's be honest, we just want you to do what you think is right. And that's all that you did. And we don't feel that you should have done better in that situation. You gave everything you had. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I think Kalvyn would kind of have his resting I don't get it face on, but he'll start to nod. And he'll kind of, I guess, maybe walk closer to Amsen and kind of, do maybe a brotherly shoulder pat and be like,
thank you. I don't know if you know, but those words mean a lot to me. I don't know how much I could go through if I didn't think that I had y'all's support. I don't know. I'm getting a little teary-eyed.
Well, Kalvyn, we're always here for you, no matter what. Whether you give everything you have or give only what you want. We all care about you, and whatever we can do for you, we'll take the opportunity to do so. And I know that you've already proven that you can do way more.
I think at this point, Kalvyn will interrupt him and just kind of pull him in for a big hug, and just kind of like maybe even for a minute rest his head on his shoulder, maybe putting a little bit more weight than is necessary into it. And
Amsen will try probably a little bit futilely to hold up Kalvyn as Kalvyn is leaning on him and Amsen is not very strong. Thank you, Kalvyn.
You don't know what that means to me.
I
thank you.
Try to understand as much as I can, Kalvyn, but you're kind of crushing me a little bit.
Hey, sorry. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Let me hear.
Maybe kind of trying to dust him off, I guess, a little bit, and just kind of straighten him up.
It's okay, Kalvyn, it's okay. You're just a very strong person, and I am not.
Oh, well, no, we all have our strengths, my friend.
Yes.
Actually, hey, while you're here, I don't know why this reminds me of it, but I have somebody I need to introduce you to.
And he will, just kind of not even wait for a response, so kind of grab his wrist and run towards whatever stables or wherever we can summon Mundies, and you can fade out unless you wanted to say more.
Okay.
Gonna let that be the fade out.
Okay. So as Kalvyn shows Amsen his Albadon steed, this massive warhorse, a good 6 inches taller than most, we fade out on that scene, and I think those were the two chronologically important scenes. So at this point, we can go to anyone that really wants to. I do have the list of scenes, so I can go in a line, but unless someone wants to choose to go first.
I did have one that was kind of chronologically important, but I think Amsen may have touched on a lot of what I needed, so I'm not sure if I should do it. I don't know. Michael, do you think there could be another scene in order with Kalvyn early on?
There could be. It would probably preface something that Kalvyn wanted to get done prior to that. But I don't know how quickly I could get done with my my smithing, Sir DM.
Okay. So we'll say you're working on that. We see Kalvyn training with the Nymunets over this downtime, learning the ways of the spear and the shield, the oaths and the orders, especially the order of sacrifice. They eventually give you your own sash that you can hang on your belt. So you have the cape denoting you as a Nymunet, and then the sash that denotes you as a Nymunet of the order of sacrifice. And not only do you learn and train with the spear and shield, but you also smith, working at one of the 8 forges outside, the heat magnified by that stained glass, the heat of the sun,
and we see Kalvyn working on something fairly small and shiny. And as you're working on that, let's do one more scene and then come back to Kalvyn to kind of break it up. So if anyone doesn't want to just hop in, I'll just go down the list and pick someone. Hearing none, we'll just go down the list. Ball, you had something.
Hola.
You had something you wanted to do. I know you had some research. We also had something you wanted to do with Wolfrath. Is that the scene you wanted to do?
Yeah, let's do the Wolfrath one.
Okay. So you make your way to the Ward of Valor, where there is in that district in particular, there is a very high concentration of humans. You might see some half elves or half orc, but it is very much mostly humans, as Wolfrath is not only the god of war, but is an ascended mortal human, and is sort of a patron god of humanity itself. You see the warriors riding on dire beasts. You see ballistica set up everywhere. You see multiple layers of fortresses. And you also see, as you're moving through it, a lot of this semi-ruined and battered fortresses that's been built and rebuilt over the years doesn't all bear the mark of Wolfrath. You see some old pieces of murals and engravings that depict different visuals, not of the wolf, but most of it has been chipped away and new statues built to Wolfrath himself. And what were you doing in this district?
Well, I think especially for Ball, he's familiar with kind of, like a temple of Ain, but this area for Wolfrath is kind of foreign to him. So he just kind of looks, obviously just not being exactly human himself. He just looks really out of place, and is just kind of like with his hand kind of near where the sword that he's supposed to return is. He's just kind of like aimlessly wandering around trying to find where like the temple is, or where some kind of servant of the temple could give him a helping hand.
So you see Ball kind of moving through these various choke points that have been fortified as like kill gates and kill boxes. You see barracks and watchtowers. You see an arena. You hear chants and calls and sparring and battle coming from within it. And you also see, and as you're kind of pointed around, you see something called the Battery that seems to serve as the temple. It doesn't look much like a temple. It looks more like a fortress, a heavily fortified citadel. You see there's several layers of stone walls. You have to go through multiple gates of port cutlasses, where there is a bulk of vanguards who are the guards of this ward staying here with their direwolves. It's heavily defensible as you're forced to move through these choke point hollow hallways with arrow slits on each side. Entering into this courtyard of the citadel called the Battery, you see a wall of these war stones that are set up. You see a line of a few followers of Wolfrath where there is a pedestal and upon it an old helm. You see in the courtyard there's also a huge rock, and you see numerous people sparring, covered walkways all around. The rock itself has runes on it that you recognize as being giant runes. As you move through, people eye you. They don't stop you. You do notice in here there is a number of sparring people of Wolfrath, as well as you do notice someone nearing your height, about 8 foot tall, which you've heard of as being a Goliath. So they've seen bigger individuals before as you carry that greatsword in here.
So I'm trying to kind of envision what it looks like. There isn't just kind of like an altar, for example, or somewhere where, like in a typical temple where you can kind of just like go to pray? Is it more of kind of like a barracks kind of a vibe?
It's more of a barracks. Yeah, and you're trying to understand how it can also serve as a temple, as they seem to claim. The closest thing to an altar you see is that pedestal with the helmet upon it, where you do see people kind of getting onto one knee with their weapons out and holding it up to the helmet. And you also see through a hallway into another courtyard where there is a large statue of Wolfrath, this human with a direwolf next to him, holding this massive greatsword, leaning over it. So those are the two most things that look the closest to altars, though this is not a typical temple. This is a temple to a god of war.
So Ball's going to go to, I guess, where the large statue of Wolfrath is. And that's kind of where he figures, if Ball's going to send a message, he might as well kind of go to the one that looks like the boss.
Okay.
So he goes to the giant statue.
Okay.
And then, assuming he gets there, unless I get interrupted. So he'll just kind of go there and trying to take the cue of what everyone else is doing. He will unsheath that greatsword and just holding it by the blade, and then where the hilt can kind of face towards the statue. So kind of with the blue spirals on the hilt exposed, he's going to kind of like hold that out, maybe resting that. I don't know if he saw that the others were also resting the blades on.
You saw both at the wall of stones with the helmet and at the base of the statue. You see weapons driven into the ground. You see shields placed lying against the statue and against the wall. You see blades placed at the feet of the statue, as well as bowls of coin and gems. They seem to be leaving offerings at both the wall and helm and at this statue of Wolfrath.
So yeah, I think Ball's just going to he'll place the sword down and kind of kneel in front of the sword, and just as if he was kind of praying to Ayin, but he's going to just, pray to and hope that Wolfrath will hear him when he speaks, and just kind of relay that
I don't know exactly how to talk to you. This doesn't look like the temple that I am used to, but I was instructed to return this blade. It has been some time since I was instructed to do so.
And then, Ball's kind of pausing, because he's really feeling a little out of his element. And he says,
I understand this blade is important to you and your people. It may be taking longer than I had expected, but I will make sure to bring it back to the mantle.
And then maybe just kind of, pauses for a little bit. Says, maybe while he's pausing and thinking about what to say, he's under his breath,
though I'm not quite sure where that is.
As you finish your prayer, reaching out to Wolfrath, you open your eyes once more and you see those swirling runes faintly glowing, but almost not glowing, as if the runes themselves have darkened. They've been made more prevalent. They almost seem to be turned into a rust-colored red. They pulse like that for a time, shifting between the natural color and then this deepened reddish rust color of dried blood almost.
I suppose that means you heard me.
And then Ball will slowly start to get up, take the blade, sheath it, kind of have a look around again. In a way, kind of admiring what a different temple this looks like. Just kind of, when you see a totally different culture, you're just kind of a bit of culture shock. And maybe, I assume you said there's kind of an area, kind of like a fighting pit where people were practicing?
Yeah, there are no pews, but instead there are various fighting circles where people are sparring. There seems to be some trainers as well that train in weapons and armor.
So I think while Ball's kind of, sheathing this blade again, he's holding the sheath, the blade, and he just he hears the noises of combat happening close by, and just kind of spends some time, goes up to where this kind of fighting pit is, so to speak, the training ground, and just kind of resting on the blade and just kind of watches. Okay. Kind of like a bit of a wallflower, though Ball's not really easily, doesn't blend into the wall. Yeah.
But you do so, and you catch glances at first, but they eventually kind of see you're just watching and eventually come to ignore you as you see various combatants come and fight each other one-on-one and sometimes in pairs and sometimes in groups. And every now and then you'll see a trainer kind of get frustrated and move to the center and say, all of you come at me. And you see one person fighting off multiple people at once. Sometimes the direwolves will join in, and it's disorganized and chaotic. But you begin to understand, it seems like such a weird way to train people, but you begin to see the tactic seems to be just introduce chaos. This is what war is. It's not clean lines. It's just blood and gore and chaos. But as we zoom out on Ball, who's reached out to Wolfrath with a great sword in his hand, now ruined with rust, who else do we now move to? We'll go ahead and go to Ellory then.
All right.
I see a couple on here. It's really whichever one you want to do first. I see visiting the Waystone, the tree, the Voltimeri training, honoring Orcesis.
Let's do the Waystone first.
Okay. And do you get Ezekiel to bring you out there, or did you find it yourself?
I think I'll ask Ezekiel, and I would also mention to everybody else at some point that I'm going to go check out the Waystone. If they want to come along, they can. But,
Okay. So whoever else wanted to join Ellory and Ezekiel guides you to the old growth outside of Nymunet, and then eventually to this sort of center circle. And there's some guardian hesitation that you kind of have to move through. But as long as you're respectful and slow and walking, you're able to be let through to where you see this old bonsai tree looking. It's not a stone at all, but a tree. It rises up about 30-ish feet and then is as wide as it is tall, with these boughs that hang from the great weight nearly to the ground, with these massive roots that almost act as tendrils reaching in all directions.
So, just to clarify, is this the Vivus tree or is this something else?
This is identified as the Vivus tree.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if this was what she meant or not when Mother Willow said that there was a waystone here.
Well, Asintma is the god of nature, so it makes sense that his fragment would be embodiment of that. I think waystone may just be the term that over time, not knowing what any of them are.
It makes sense. Though she said that it was also somehow connected to all of the gods, not just one, the way that the others apparently are.
Well, the roots grow deep. Asintma is this world. He's everywhere and everything, so it would spread pretty much everywhere.
Have you ever seen a waystone? I mean, besides here?
I don't believe I have, no.
So the last time that we were here, Ellory kind of stayed back. But I think this time she's going to move forward and approach the tree and just kind of very, very gingerly reach out to touch the bark of the tree.
Okay. So you remember last time Ezekiel spoke to it and he described what he saw, but when you were there, you didn't see any face in the trees. You saw the leaves and branches move with wind in a strange pattern, but not how he described it. But as you reach out slowly and gingerly touch the bark, you feel a strange shift, as if the boughs move and the winds rustle through the leaves. But you're not sure if it's just the wind or what it is. You feel your heartbeat pulsing through your arm as you touch it.
I'm not entirely sure what I hoped I would find here, but... Hey, Ezekiel?
Yes.
You want to find the other waystones?
I feel like that could be important. If we can figure out how this damn map would work, it might be able to help us.
I've been thinking for a while that I wanted to go chase some of these down. Well, we've got some starting points with that book. Maybe we can...
Oh, no, I was just going to say I haven't really... I haven't seen Meli without 7 books around her, so who knows what she's found out by now.
And I've been... Well, you know when I jumped into the storm?
Yeah. I might have mentioned that was a bad idea, but I was a dog.
Yeah, well... The place where the storm came out, that was, Gaethalt, and that book on waystones that we found in Whiteguard, that mentioned that one of the waystones is there.
Well...
So, I have a few reasons for wanting to go back there.
Maybe we should find a different route this time.
That's probably a good idea.
I have some measure of control over the weather, but I don't think I could handle what you described.
Well, I guess we'll be sailing again. Eventually.
And God, out of curiosity, is that on this continent? Is that across the mountains?
Which one in particular?
Gaethalt.
Did y'all have any sort of map with that? Or are you just asking if you know in general?
Yeah, if I have any idea what that is, or
Why don't you give me a nature check? Nature or history? Or religion?
Nature is the only one that's not absolutely miserable. 6!
Oh boy. You're unsure. I'll say you, just from what she described, it's not on land. But besides that, you're not sure where it's at.
Yeah, we can go there. Sure, it's real simple.
Well, I at least know a few people now who have been there, so...
Well, we'll see what we can find about them. I still have to get to wherever the visions I had when reading that book got us. Maybe there's more there.
And has Ezekiel described those visions specifically, or just mentioned them?
No, I think he went over them the last time when this was all brought up. So that's one of the things he's working on while he's here.
Well, didn't you say there was one place that was on a shore?
Yeah. Waves against brown stone, cave at the end of the ocean, waves flowing into a maw of sharp black crystal quartz.
That might be the one that's there.
Might be. I believe the last time we looked into it, I thought it was to the south, near Novikov. But I was going to ask around the keepers. Some of them must have traveled. I can't imagine they spent their whole lives in this tiny temple. Well, you know what I mean. It's outside, but it's not really. No offense, Vivus tree. Anyway, I agree. We should look into whatever we can about the Waystones and see if we can get there. And with however many coincidences have already happened on our journeys, I'm sure they will intersect in one way or another.
You know, I'm starting to maybe agree with you about this whole destiny thing. Still not sure I like it, but...
Oh, none of us do. None of us do.
And as you'll begin to talk more about these waystones and discuss with the keepers and then move into various research, both with the Druid keepers and with the standard library, we'll move on and we'll do one more scene and then we'll take a break. So moving down the line, we'll go with Amsen. There's a couple things on your list, so which one did you want to do?
Because I think this one's probably going to be the quickest, just narratively. I think Amsen's going to take a day when everybody else is busy, and instead of performing or visiting other people or whatever, he's going to go visit the Temple of Ras-Sarab because he has no idea what they're like. And he's a little curious.
Okay. So you move into Fortune's Path, the district for Ras-Sarab. You see in the center is a very large white stone pyramid with a rectangular base. As you move towards it, you see there are 4 sides, 4 sets of stairs on each side that lead up to a dome at the very center. Making your way up the doorway, water cascades from ports on each side from the top, flowing downward on these kind of layers of water. As you get to the top, there's no doorway. You move around to check the other side. No doorway there is either. None on the last, or either of the last sides. There seems to be no doorway. There's just water cascading from these holes of these tunnel-like sewer ports with water pouring out.
So I was there when Meli solved that Ras-Sarab holy symbol. Mm-hmm. So Amsen's going to look around, be a little bit confused, and then remember that, and he'll be like, right. Ras-Sarab. Okay. I don't know if this will work, but he's going to try it. He's going to cast Prestidigitation to, like, sweep around some dust or something like that and see if anything gets sucked up by a hidden door or something like that.
Okay. Give me just an intelligence check as you're using this to check around for any sort of door or rune or trap or...
That's a good roll. That is a 22.
Okay. As you do so, you notice various runes will pop up and then dissipate. And then pop up and dissipate as you move around. You will try to get on the same tile and it won't occur. And then sometimes it will. You're trying to figure out a pattern, and sometimes it seems like there is one, and then there's an outlier that seems to be trying to throw you off. But you do notice there are rooms that lead towards this tunnel of water that pours out. Looking down in it, you can see there's no bars that block your gate. There's an entrance through water that would come about up to your shin if you were able to push through.
Okay. I think Amsen will try to go through it then.
Okay. So pushing through, you make your way in through this tunnel, opens up into a larger tunnel with numerous other exits. A few with stairs, a few without stairs. They're just tunnels that slant down, water pouring in various directions. Looking around and making your way through, you see murals on the wall of 4 armed celestial angel creatures. Sometimes they have the face of a cat. And sometimes you'll look at these again and see the face is just a regular human. Sometimes it's half face. Sometimes there's a hood blocking your visage. It seems like these murals change and augment as you move through, and it makes it very difficult to remember which direction you're heading. At some point, you see a tunnel that leads upwards with the water running backwards up the hill. You know if you continue further into this maze, this labyrinth of this pyramid, it's going to strain your intelligence and your memory, and you'll have to make a check.
I'm just looking at some of the things that Amsen has in his inventory and see if he has anything clever. Well, he'll at least take out a lantern so that he can see. I imagine this is a little dark.
It is a little dark, though there is strangely light refracting off the water with no apparent light source, but it still refracts off the water, reflecting onto the walls and that dancing light that occurs from reflecting off of the water as you move through these various tunnels. You come into one chamber with what appears to be a pile of gold on one end, gemstones, circlets, bracelets, crowns. You see mahogany tables tipped on their side, treasure chests of gold spilled out. You see spiral staircases straight down. You see a hole in the ceiling that goes straight up. No ladder, no stairs. And this confusing chamber. And you're beginning to lose track of where exactly you are. Make an intelligence check.
Yeah, that's an 8. I'm gonna use luck.
Okay.
That is significantly better. That's a 21.
There's a point where you have been moving for a couple hours and you get turned around. There's a point where you feel like you're going to get lost and stuck in here. But you remember details of the murals, the unchanging parts, and you use them to reorient yourself. You are still not lost, though you're getting deeper and deeper into this various chamber. You hear roars that echo throughout it, the sounds of beast. You hear of shifting walls. You feel the rumbling beneath your feet that this labyrinth is ever changing, just as the murals are. Do you delve deeper?
Sure. Amsen's feeling a little adventurous.
Okay. Make one more intelligence check as you continue to move past, recognizing illusions as traps for the greedy, hearing the roars as just frightening noises to scare those away.
I'm going to use luck again because that was a natural one.
Oh boy.
It's not much better. That's an 8.
An 8, okay. You spend another couple hours moving downstairs, moving through tunnels, crossing over bridges, over flowing water, all of that refracting light in these changing murals in each corridor, in each hall, in each tunnel. You hear the shifting of walls and the moving of the floor beneath you. You hear those roars echoing through as you begin to get turned around. You spend a couple of more hours unable to correct yourself. You eventually find rest there and sleep. The next day, trying to move out and unable to find a way out. And then the 3rd day, and the 4th day. On the 5th day, you finally find a door. It's grand and roomed. You see murals of these 4-armed angels pointing towards it. This holy and divine doorway, this gate, with stairs that lead up this gilded platform towards its final destination. Do you open the doors?
I'll knock.
Listening, you hear the sound of water.
I will take that as an invitation to come in. I will open the door.
Okay. You open the door and suddenly you feel a force on the back of your legs as you fall backwards onto your back, splattering into water as you find yourself being pushed out, and then blinding light from being dazed in this darkened corridor, and you find yourself falling into the water. You come and resurface again. You see, as your eyes adjust, you're on the outside of the pyramid. You look around and you see you've been flushed out of one of those water ports that cascade down the sides of this temple. There's something in there. You weren't able to quite get to it.
Amsen will, completely soaked, absolutely completely, with what remaining dignity he has left, crawl out from whatever gutter that this temple has disposed of him in, stand up, prestidigitate himself dry, look at the temple and say, "Well played. I have some studying to do, and I will be back." And he'll go back and rest for a couple of days and catch up with anybody who maybe missed him.
Okay. Yeah, so after a couple of days of being trapped in there, you did learn a bit of the history and some of the notes of Rossarov from those ever-changing murals on the walls. But yeah, if you prestidigitate the water off of you and begin to leave, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll pick back up in a few minutes.
Next time on Back to the Story.
I cannot help the circumstances of my birth or the words that were spoken to me in my dreams since I was a child.
And you realize as this man is just smiling, the voice isn't in your head, you hear it, and then you realize it is the monkey on his shoulder that's speaking. "My name's George." And the man reaches his hand out to shake yours. "The true test of Ultimari is to live in it."
For part 2 of this episode of Back to the Story, you can find it on Stitcher, Google Play, Player FM, or TuneIn. We also have a YouTube channel called Back to the Story, an actual play podcast. If you'd like to support the show, feel free to buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/backtothestory.